Happy Word Nerd Wednesday. I'm actually pretty, stoked to be home. I am back in Los Angeles, which is amazing. I'm very happy to be home. My travels are fantastic, but, flying in, it just felt right to be here. And, being the political climate what it is, and the fact that I am also in the midst of writing writing an article sort of on these specific words in this topic, I decided that Word Nerd Wednesday today would be about two words. Again, I'm postponing account and entitlement. That will come later when it's appropriate. But right now I feel that basically in this article, what I'm writing is, why do people mistake hate for courage or being courageous? And so, naturally, to answer this question, on a Word Nerd Wednesday, I must dive into the words hate and courage. However, separately, I looked up the difference between fake and false. And I did this because I was trying to say some American idiom. And when I wrote it out, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure it's not false, it's fake. But then I looked up those two words, and they're actually interesting and different, but also useful to, I'm assuming and sort of remembering that they seem related in some way to hate and courage. But typically when we're doing Word Nerd Wednesday, you're diving in at the same time as me. I do look up the word ahead of time, so I have it on reference, but I don't plan what I'm going to say about it. So, hate. Yes, okay. Let's talk a little bit about hate. Because it is not what you think it is. And it's certainly a verb and a noun. The verb comes from the noun. The act of hate comes from the thing that is hate. And actually was changed in its origins to go along with the same origins as hate the noun, even though hate the verb comes from a different aspect of Old English. Hate the verb comes from what I can only assume is either Hattian or Haitian. It's spelled H-A-T-I-A-N. But hate the noun comes from the Old English word either het or hete, H-E-T-E. So hate the verb means regard with extreme ill will, have a passionate aversion to, treat as an enemy. From Proto-Germanic hatten, or Old Saxon hatten, or Old Norse hatta, German hassen, Gothic hatten, to hate. From a Proto-Indo-European word, of course, we are speaking English here, which is kad, which means sorrow or hatred. So hate, the noun, though, comes from Old English hete, which means hatred, spite, envy, malice, hostility, from Proto-Germanic hatis, as opposed to haton. Also a source of Old Norse hatter, Old Frisian hat, Dutch hot, Old High German Hass, German Hass, Gothic Hattis. Would you know? I had it the other way around. The noun comes from the verb. That's what I'm telling you. You're learning in real time with me, right? Okay, so the noun comes from the verb. The verb was first, and the noun's history was changed to go along with the verb because it says altered in Middle English to conform with the verb. Now, what's interesting to me is that hate the verb, right, from the Proto-Indo-European word kad, which means sorrow, hatred. It says around that same time, sources of the Proto-Indo period of the word hatred, around the same time as the Proto-Indo-European word, I'm just going to call it payel, is also eveston, which I haven't quite figured out what that is yet, but I'll get back to that at a later date. Greek, and Welsh. So all of these languages had some sort of word to communicate this thing. And the most interesting thing to me about hate is that across the oldest languages that this word derives from, the most popular meaning of what hate actually means is sorrow. In Proto-Indo-European, it means sorrow or hatred. In Avestan, it meant grief, sorrow, or calamity. In Greek, kairos, it meant care, trouble, sorrow. In Welsh, it meant pain or anger. So, hatred is, I don't think that people typically Well, one, I don't know how honest haters are these days. There's like the superficial honest hater, which is like, I'm going to shade you, or like, oh my God, I'm showing my age. Who's like, I'm going to shade you, or I'm a hater, yes, whatever. Basically, there are haters that claim it with pride. But these are usually haters of the superficial variety. Usually that's like pettiness and envy, right? Which is also a source of the word hatred, right? The noun, hatred, spite, envy, malice, or hostility. So that's the surface hate. But the real and true hate, the one that people truly believe in and don't call hate, the thing that people call what is right or God's will or their opinion or nature or whatever, the thing that people think is true, as opposed to the thing that people more associate just with how they feel. Something that people, like hatred, the verb, goes beyond feeling. It is something that people think is a moral attribute. So what's interesting to me is that I don't know how many people who are a part of hate groups or who truly think that they hate others recognize that to do that, it would mean to be in sorrow, to be in calamity, to be grieving, to be in pain. And obviously, of course, they understand that they have anger and that they have trouble, which are other words for it. Now, what's interesting, I guess, is that if you think about hate, the verb, and the fact that it means sorrow or grief, most popularly in its original sense, then you could think, a wise person, an honest person who has faith in hatred, would know that it was because they had sorrow over the target of whatever it is they claim they hate, right? There's a sadness, there's a grief there. There's something that they feel bad about concerning the target of their hatred, whether that's sexuality, gender, race, and the list goes on, religion, whatever. Hate has a lot of faces. So, I think the wise hating person would know that. And I do think that there's something along the lines of a wise hater. It's someone who knows what they're doing. They know that they hate someone and they are honestly and actively going about that process without hiding or without faking or without not understanding what they're doing. Now, to say that there's a wise hater doesn't mean that I think hatred is a good thing, but I think that it's a spectrum like everything else, and that there are I would rather be around an honest racist and a truthful racist than a fake one, because the fake one is even less trustworthy. At least with the honest hater, you know exactly where you stand, okay? So, but people think of hatred as this moral thing, this like moral attribute. So I wanted to look up what I feel that people, or I think that people most mistake hatred for. And I think that is courage. And at first I was like, oh, maybe I should look up courageous. But courageous, etymologically speaking, is the same as courage. So courage is a noun, came into written language circa 1300 from Old French, courage, from 12th century modern French, which originally meant in modern French and Old French, heart, innermost feelings, and interestingly enough, temper. So courage meant heart, innermost feelings, temper, but it's from vulgar Latin, coracticum. That's a whole other topic. We're going to talk about that later. I'm more of a Greek nerd than a Latin nerd, but Latin's interesting too. So from Vulgar Latin, coracticum, source of Italian, coraggio, from Spanish, coraje, from Latin, cor, which meant heart, from a Proto-Indo-European root word, curd, meaning heart. So courage, at the heart of it, means exactly that, heart. So why I say that, and why it's so interesting to me, is because I think people mistake the act of hate, which is an act and a state of being in sorrow and grief, as if it were an act of courage, meaning as if it were something imperative that the heart wants. And the irony in that, and like the true bizarre poetry of that, is like not lost on me. People think hate is having heart. Even in the superficial sense of hate, right? Even in the superficial sense of hate, because people are proud now of their prejudices. And actually, I think people were proud of their prejudices early on too. But it's just interesting to be going back into that state of being, in other words, regressing back into the state of being where people think that ignorance and differences, like willful ignorance, like I don't want to know about this person, or I don't care what there is to know about this person, I just want to hate them. Where people wear this sort of like a badge of honor, like their heart on their sleeve, like, yes, I hate you, and doesn't it make me great? And I think that's so bizarre for too many reasons, and certainly not enough time to get to it in this particular little fireside chat that we're having. But I think that, hold on, what is it? I think that Orson Welles was a genius. I mean, 1984, hate is love. I mean, this is what people think this. People really have gotten themselves worked up into such a state of depression and of sorrow and of grief that they actually believe that to wallow and to embrace and to hold fast to that feeling is somehow a marker of their virility or their strength or their courage. This is my left side. Yes. Okay. Or their courage, or that it's somehow like a good thing. And being sorrowful, yes, there's a time and a place, and in and of itself is not a bad thing, but it's not a constant state to be in. The constant state to be in is transition, understanding that every day you're going to go through several different kinds of emotions and states of minds. And it's about finding the balance in that rhythm along the spectrum as opposed to staying in any one place. That's why hatred is problematic, because it is a stagnant sentimentality that is based on a history that is also fabricated, which is a great transition into my other two words, right? So let me first find that statement that I was trying to make, because what's the point of talking about words and not being like all specific? Just give me a little second here while I figure out. It was a line from my Gaia Matrix Oracle write-up, which I do monthly, and you can find in the Cauldron part of my website. But what I wrote was, do not be the fake idol of your own existence. And after I wrote that, I was like kind of doing other things, and then I recognized, I was like, oh wait, I don't think it's a fake idol, I think it's false idol. So I Googled it, and it is false idol. But then I looked at the difference between fake and false, because I was like, well, they're similar or nah, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about do not be the fake idol of your own existence. Okay, so fake. Appropriately, of unknown origin, attested in London criminal slang as adjective as early as 1775, in the sense of counterfeit. Verb 1812 became a verb in 1812 meaning to rob, and noun in 1851, a swindle. And of persons in 1888. This is so cool how this word evolved, and also like it's a trickster word. It's a trickster word. It meant It meant a swindle, and it was a thing to fake someone in 1851. But by 1888, you could be a swindler. They think it is older than all of these dates, older than its word origin into the colloquial slang in 1775. A likely source is imagined to be fag, F-E-A-G-U-E, or fagot, or fagay, which means to spruce up by artificial means, from German Fegen, or Fagin, which meant to polish, sweep, also to clear out, plunder in colloquial use. And then they attribute it to earlier thieves' slang in German or Dutch, but always of the robbers, huh? And also there's a theory in etymology that it also might be from Latin facere or facere, to do. But basically the origin of fake is, one, a changing sentiment, and two, derived unarguably from people who were on the outskirts of society, people who knew how to hustle and fake out others in order to benefit themselves. Again, it says there's written evidence of this in German and Dutch as early as the 30 Years' War, and again, London criminal slang. Now, why I find this interesting is because false, which is what the word I should have used, do not be the false idol of your own existence, is an adjective from Late Old English, meaning intentionally untrue, lying, from religion, meaning not of true faith, not in accord with Christian doctrines, from Old French, false, and faus, false, F-A-L-S, faus, F-A-U-S, which meant false, fake, incorrect, mistaken, treacherous, or deceitful. From 12th century modern French, faux, from Latin falsus, deceptive, feigned, deceitful, pretend, also deceived, erroneous, and mistaken. And that is a past particle of fallare, deceive, or disappoint, which is of uncertain origin. And to know more, you would go to fail, which I suppose I should have already pulled that up, but actually hadn't thought about it. Interesting. Fail, century 1200s came into the written word. Fail, be unsuccessful in accomplishing a purpose. From Latin fallire, from Latin fallere, to trip, cause to fall. So actually, we don't really need fail, but I do think that we might as well have gone there. Okay, so the interesting thing about do not be the false idol of your own existence and do not be the fake idol of your own existence, to me, meant like, do not be the false idol of your own existence. You know, do not deceive yourself. Don't be false. Be true. Do not be deceitful to others. Do not present yourself other than what you are in a context that is not agreed upon. You know, like if you're LARPing, live action role playing, or if you're cosplaying, or if you have some sort of, you know, agreement with someone to fake who you are, that's one thing. But if you are presenting yourself in a particular way in order to give people the impression that you're a way that you're not, that is being deceitful, right? So that would be being the false idol of your own existence. But being the fake idol of your own existence, I think I prefer fake in the sense that I use it. Do not be the fake idol of your own existence, because the actual original thing that I was taking from is false idols. But the statement, do not be the fake idol of your own existence, to me is more appropriate, because I think that I think that many people don't even recognize when they are deceiving themselves. And that they so desperately want to understand something or believe that something is true about them that they are willing to negate their inner knowledge in order to be presentational in the way that they think is appropriate. So to me, that's not as like being false is more cunning than being fake. People who are fake, you know, basically they cheat in themselves. That's why I like it as don't be the fake idol of your own existence. Because if you're going to be a counterfeit version of yourself, if you're going to rob yourself by not acknowledging all that you are and being honest about that, if you're going to swindle yourself or be a swindler because you're going to cheat yourself out of your own life, then that makes you fake. It doesn't make you false, it makes you fake. And I think that there should be a clear distinction between those two things. So don't be the fake idol of your own existence. Be who you are. It's a tragedy that some people must take their whole lives and arrive on their deathbed just to recognize all the things that they left not only undid, but unrecognized, all the things that they passed up. And then that's the only life you have to live. So don't be the fake idol of your own existence. Don't cheat yourself out of your life, who you were made to be, and what you were made like, and what you were made to do. All those things are for you to discover. And I think that hatred is a real counter to this kind of honesty, because it keeps you believing that something that hurt you, or something that you perceived as hurting you directly, somehow becomes the centerpiece of your need for being. And I think that's not courageous, because that's not coming from the heart. That's coming from the mentality of being stuck in the past and being stagnant. So that is my Word Nerd Wednesday. A little bit longer, but we had 4 words. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.